Most people think retirement is a decision that you make just once. On a date you pick when you're feeling ready. It isn't. Retirement is 5 different doors. Each one opens at a specific age. Each one has a deadline. If you miss that deadline, the cost follows you permanently. This video walks through every door, what opens, what it costs, and what you need to decide before that door closes. Look, before we get into the timeline, I want you to consider something. There's one door on this timeline that almost everyone treats as a formality. You hit the age, you do the thing, you move on. It's not a formality. It's the most expensive mistake on the entire retirement timeline, because when you make it wrong, the penalty is permanent and it compounds every year for the rest of your life. It is not Social Security. We're going to get to it. Now, one more thing before we start. Next week, the accounts that sit behind every one of these 5 doors, like the 401k, the IRA, the Roth, and the one account almost nobody is using correctly, the HSA. Look, subscribe so you don't miss it. Imagine you have spent 20 years building a retirement account, and one winter, your furnace, it dies. Your roof, it starts to leak. You need $20,000 before age 59 and a half. The IRS would have charged you a 10% penalty on top of the taxes you already owe just for accessing your own money. Now, after 59 and a half, that penalty, it disappears. For the first time in your adult life, the money that you built is now truly yours to access. That's freedom. But the door opening does not mean you should just walk through it. There's 3 questions before touching the account. Is this a genuine need or a want? It can wait. What tax bracket does taking this money create? What does this dollar cost in compound growth over the next 10 years if you had left it in? The most strategic use of this moment, it's not spending, it's conversion. If you're in a lower income year between retirement and Social Security claiming, this is the cheapest moment to move traditional IRA funds into a Roth. You pay tax now at a lower rate rather than at a higher rate forced by required minimum distributions, RMDs. At 59 and a half, it's not the finish line, it's the starting line. Now, how about 62? When 62 arrives, something very tempting happens. The Social Security door opens. After decades of watching that deduction come out of every single paycheck, you can finally get something back. And you know what? A lot of people take it before they understand what it will cost them. Claiming at 62 locks in a permanent reduction to your benefit. Not temporary, not reversible. It's permanent. And for anyone still working, it gets even more complicated. If you claim at 62 and you continue working, the earnings limit steps into play. For every $2 you earn above the annual threshold, what happens? $1 in Social Security benefits is withheld. Most people assume they can claim early and just keep working at the same pace. The math says otherwise. Look, there are 3 types of 62-year-olds watching this. 1, you're still working full-time. Claiming at 62 almost never makes any financial sense. You might be partially working or transitioning. The earnings limit is the deciding factor. 3rd, you're not working at all. The break-even analysis tells you whether early claiming is the right step for you. Look, we've done a full lifetime claiming math video in the Social Security Decision Series. I'll put a link in the description. Now remember something. As consequential as this decision is, it's not the most expensive mistake on this timeline. That one, I'm still going to get to it. Now, I've seen retirees lose thousands of dollars because they assume Medicare just takes care of itself. They turned 65, they waited, and you know what? They discovered too late that Medicare does not happen automatically. And the penalty for missing it, it's permanent. This is the door I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And there's actually 3 decisions stacked inside of it. Door 1, Medicare. You have a 7-month enrollment period. 3 months before the month you turn 65, the month itself, and 3 months after. You miss it, and the penalty adds 10% permanently to your Part B premium for every 12-month period you were eligible and you didn't enroll. If you're still working at 65 and you're working for an employer that has over 20 employees, you can delay Part B without penalty as long as active employment continues. Now look, here's the trap. COBRA and retiree health plans, they don't count as creditable coverage. The day active employment ends, the special enrollment period clock, it starts. You miss that deadline, and the same permanent penalty applies. Now, how about your spouse? If your spouse is not yet 65, Medicare, it only covers you. Your spouse needs separate coverage. This is one of the most underplanned situations in retirement. Now, door number 2, the HSA. The moment Medicare Part A activates, your HSA contributions, they've got to stop, even if you didn't choose it, even if it activated automatically. There's a 6-month look back that catches people who claim Social Security after 65. If you claim Social Security after 65, Medicare Part A is retroactively activated up to 6 months prior. Any HSA contributions made during that period become excess contributions subject to tax and penalty. The HSA is the only retirement account with pre-tax contributions, tax-free growth, tax-free distributions for medical expenses. Maximize it before this door closes. Door 3, the income transition at 65. Most people are either recently retired or within months of it. Your portfolio withdrawals, you may be beginning them. Social Security may or may not have been claimed. How you sequence those 2 income sources has significant tax implications. That brings us back to the mistake I mentioned at the beginning, Medicare. I said it's not Social Security. It isn't. It's this. The permanent penalty that most people discover only after they've already paid it. So 3 simultaneous decisions at 65, each one with its own deadline and its own cost. The Retirement Reality Check over at brainflash.com helps you map out your specific situation against each one. Look, just drop your email over at brainflash.com and it comes straight to your inbox. Look, 2 more doors. Let's finish out the timeline. Next one. Most people think the hardest retirement decisions, you know what, they're behind them by the time they hit 67. Now look, in some ways they're right. In one important way, they're not. At 67, for anyone born 1960 or later, that's your full retirement age. The benefit is fully restored. The earnings limit, it disappears. You can earn any amount of money without Social Security being withheld. Look, that's the big sigh of relief. Here's the catch. The IRS doesn't just step back out of your life entirely, no surprise, just because you reached full retirement age. There's now a different calculation that comes into being. When your combined income, earned income, portfolio withdrawals, half your Social Security benefit crosses a threshold. Now, hear me on this one, up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can become taxable. So you're earning income, taxable. You're drawing from your portfolio, potentially taxable. And your Social Security benefit, which you assumed was yours, is now partially taxable too. 3 income streams, 3 tax events, all triggered by crossing one threshold. That's not a reason to stop working. It is a reason to understand where the threshold is before you cross it and to make intentional decisions about which account to draw from and when. Age 70, it's the last Social Security lever. If you've been delaying taking your benefit past full retirement age, right, every year of delay has been adding 8% to your benefit. At 70, okay, that accumulation now stops. There's no financial benefit to waiting past 70 to claim. The maximum benefit, it's locked in. This is the earn as much as you want milestone. Earnings limit, gone. Benefit, maximize. But something else now starts at this stage of life. Required minimum distributions, RMDs. Under the current law, RMDs begin at age 73 for most people. It's not a choice. The IRS requires you to withdraw a minimum amount from your traditional retirement accounts and do so every year, whether you need the money or not. For someone with a large 401k or IRA balance that's been growing for decades, wow, the RMD can create a significant taxable income event. If you combine that with a maximized Social Security benefit, forcing that income, it can push you above what's called the provisional income threshold. Suddenly, the benefits that were never taxed are now taxable. This is the planning problem that has to be solved years before age 73 arrives. The time to act is in your early retirement years, between the day you stop working and the day RMDs begin. That gap is the most valuable tax planning period of your retirement. Let's go back to where we started. Retirement is not one decision made on one day. It's 5 doors. 59 and a half, freedom. The penalty disappears and your money is finally yours. At 62, temptation. Social Security opens early, but at a permanent cost that most people really underestimate. 65, I had to call it confusion. 3 decisions arrive at once: Medicare, the HSA, and the income transition. At 67, a little bit of relief with a catch. The earnings limit disappears, but a new tax dynamic replaces it. At 70, man, just breathe a sense of finality. The maximum benefit locks in, RMD clock begins, and that mistake I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the one that most people treat as, it's just a formality, it's Medicare. Specifically, that Part B late enrollment penalty, 10%, permanently added to your premium for every 12-month period you were eligible and you didn't enroll. Guys, it's not a one-time fee. It's permanent every year for life. It's the most expensive administrative mistake on the entire retirement timeline. The goal, look, it's not for you to memorize these rules. That's not it. The goal is just simple: knowing which door you're standing in front of before the door closes, because retirement rewards the people who prepare before the deadline arrives. Look, next week, the 4 accounts that sit behind every door on this timeline: the 401k, the IRA, the Roth, and the HSA. What they are, how they interact with each other, and the order that saves you the most money in your retirement. Look, subscribe so you don't miss it. This is Brain Flash.